Welcome to this month's edition of ClubCast.
Hold on.
He wasn't. Okay.
Is there a lot of editing opportunity here?
No, we never
like we
do.
roll? All right, okay.
Welcome to this month's ClubCast. Boys and Girls Clubs of St. Lucie County has a ClubCast so we could showcase some of our amazing partners and to provide information of all the things that are happening in St. Lucie County. We also use this opportunity to say thank you to our donors, our supporters, and just everyday people who are involved in Boys and Girls Clubs and our mission and vision. Today, our guest is no stranger to our community and has lots of vision. And if you know her, you know that she is just beginning. Please welcome Elizabeth Barbella, CEO and President of Martin St. Lucie Community Foundation. The Martin St. Lucie. You're gonna work this out for us.
Martin St. Lucie.
See, I knew
That's
it.
good.
That's the way we do it. Thanks for joining me on this month's edition of ClubCast. I know that between you and I, we could talk probably for 10 hours.
That's correct.
Without taking a breath. But today, I want to be able to use your expertise. Okay. And I know that you and I use words like training and development as just part of our common language. Mm-hmm. We use words like philanthropic. We use words like donors. We use words that have meaning to not only the work that we do, but the folks that are involved in the work that we do. But I'd like people to, first of all, understand a little bit more about the foundation and a little bit about your experience in the community.
Thanks. So I have to pause and say, can we talk a little bit about this big word, philanthropy? Because
Absolutely.
It sets the stage for everything. So when people think about the word philanthropy, they think about things like the Rockefellers. But if you actually go to the dictionary and you look up the word philanthropy, you're going to see that woven throughout the definition is really the concept of being a humanitarian. And so at our community foundation that serves this region, more specifically Martin and St. Lucie, when we look at philanthropy, yes, we look at our most prosperous, very generous donors in the community. But we are here to serve all philanthropists. So philanthropy begins with time philanthropy, the concept of volunteerism, and then works its way through what individuals, whatever season of life they're in, feel that they have to give back to their community. Right? We're all a part of this bigger vision, this bigger picture where we as human beings are working together to have the healthiest, most prosperous, and in fact equitable life experience that we possibly can. So at the Community Foundation, we're actually 33 years old, which surprises people. But in our DNA, our organizational culture, we're really committed to serving people who give at all levels. So whether somebody is giving $1 or $10 or $100, our job is to make sure that that gift, wherever it's placed, is strategically placed in such a way that it has the greatest impact, and that we're knowledgeable and can help the individuals, families, and corporations that come to us and say, can you help? I have something to give, and I want to make sure that I do it in the most mindful, thoughtful way. And that's the start of a really great conversation, Will, where we get an opportunity to talk to people about what's in their heart, what impact they want to have, what has been meaningful to them in their business or them in their family life, and then look out into this broad array of not-for-profit organizations and service providers and say, how does that link up with your dream, your vision as a giver? So let's use the word giver as much as philanthropist, right? So we celebrate giving at all levels. And we know that for bigger projects, it's going to take that bigger boost of philanthropy. But philanthropy is just one piece of the pie, but it's a really important piece.
That's awesome because, you know, it's such a big word that I don't think people really have the meaning. So thank you for breaking it down. And I think there's more to talk about. I know I kind of want to go backwards a little bit and just talk about how this whole philanthropic and our current pandemic situation, how it kind of played together with you, your organization, as well as some of the other organizations in St. Lucie and Martin County.
Well, in the early days, so let's go all the way back right to March, back at the right after the beginning of that new year, when we started to recognize what was going to be happening to the nation, right, to the state, and then ultimately to our region. Community Foundation was uniquely positioned because we already had a history of working across county lines throughout the region, so we intimately knew the charities. But we had also been working really hard over the last 3 or 4 years at building partnerships with other funding organizations. So let me shout some of them out because they're such great partners. United Way, St. Lucie County, Children's Services Council, St. Lucie County, Allegheny Franciscan Ministries, Bank of America, Martin Health Cleveland Clinic. We all had a history of working together over the last couple of years. So in the moment when we really needed to lock elbows and develop a unified front to say, what resources do we have to provide to our not-for-profit partners who are on the front lines responding to the pandemic, keeping our community safe, our kids safe, that we were deploying those resources in a strategic and meaningful way, and we were leveraging. So whatever each entity had to contribute, we were pooling those resources to stretch them even farther. And we did that for an entire year, and we did it for a variety of organizations, including the Boys and Girls Club. And we're really proud of the work that we did with the clubs. I mean, we know that we were one piece of what kept the clubs going, but that's important in and of itself, isn't it? And it was a piece that was informed by you and your team. So the resources that were deployed were specifically done with your expertise and your knowledge of what was going on in the community you were serving. And we were able to rapidly get those resources in the hands of organizations like the clubs. And I think that was key at that time.
Well, you're 100% right. And I think it was the first time in my lifetime that I seen CEOs and marketing experts coming together to figure out a way how we could get funds for PPE and that sort of thing to organizations like Boys and Girls Clubs. And I don't remember the exact number of what we received, but through that collaboration, it allowed us to do things in a safe manner throughout this pandemic. And to be honest with you, it's still happening. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a one-time gift from any of those organizations that you mentioned. We're still collaborating due to what you all put together.
You're in my head again, aren't you?
I'm
like
in
you
your
and
head
I
again.
talk
That's
about
what we
this.
do.
Like you're in my head.
Yeah,
This
you know
so.
what? I want to talk about some, and I'm gonna give it back to you because I'm not gonna win this battle.
Okay.
But when you're talking, I want to talk about transformational.
Yes.
And how what happened during this pandemic really transformed what we do as an organization.
So 2 things. When we were all said and done with about an 11-month period, and again, to your point, it's still ongoing, we were knocking on the door of about $1 million invested back into St. Lucie County alone. So that was significant. Let me give you kind of a bit of a list. You already started me off here. So PPE. We realized really quickly that many of the not-for-profits we worked with were not medically based, and so they didn't have access to a vendor. So Community Foundation became a vendor with a couple of medical companies. And again, with our partnership, all those other funders I mentioned, we pooled our resources and we started ordering PPE. Then we looked at what other unique types of equipment certain organizations needed. Of course, computers and technology was really important to pivot to virtual learning. Then we looked at enhancements and services that were needed, again, because of the need to rearrange and retool services. And going now to where you were leading, both the funders consortium we put together, as well as some of the changes that we funded and helped organizations make during COVID, are not going to go away because we learned a lot. There were some very effective and efficient things that if we have to find a silver lining in this, right, which I know is really tough to do, but if we have to, we learned some things about our internal capacity, staffing, better utilization of equipment. We learned about how to more effectively and efficiently offer services through a variety of different channels. And what I'm hearing from leaders like you in the not-for-profit world is some of this we're going to keep doing. And it really changed our vision, a little bit of the horizon, and we're ready to go. We're rebounding, we're in recovery mode, but we're carrying with us lessons learned and more efficient ways of doing business. Well, the funding community is doing the same thing. Our consortium is going to continue. We're going to continue to listen to what the not-for-profit community is telling us and to leverage resources for all of you as much as possible as we go forward into the future and navigate what's ahead.
Well, you know, when I think about the Community Foundation of Martin St. Lucie County, and we think about transforming a community, it's thinking differently. And when you look at the nonprofit and their role in a community, what you all have been able to do is to help share what we do in a different way. Because when you think of Community Foundation, you think of, just like you said, big money. You don't think about all the players and what they give and that sort of thing, and to include volunteering. So I know that we have about 2 more minutes in this section of this interview. I want to talk just real briefly a little bit about you, because you have this experience outside of just being at the Community Foundation. You understand a lot of what us nonprofits go through based on your own experience.
Yeah, so I'm really fortunate. When I joined the Community Foundation, I came with experience on both the funding side as well as on the not-for-profit side. So I had the great fortune and honor of leading a not-for-profit for 5 years very deliberately, because I wanted to learn what it felt like to be in the CEO seat. So at the Community Foundation, in my role there, having that 360-degree view of not only what does it mean to strategically fund organizations, but what does it mean to lead an organization and really have to mine through the most effective use of resources and leading a team through very challenging times. I didn't have the experience of leading an organization through a pandemic, so congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Because that is a huge, huge event, and you did magnificently as well as your other partners.
Thank you. And I know that as we go into the second half of this, I want to talk a little bit more about the donor, right? Because there's different levels of donors, and one of the things that I'm learning from you when you have your teaching hat on is we have different levels of why they give, but then I also want to talk about collaborations, because I think it's important. What I've learned during this time is that there's no one organization that can 100% do it on their own.
Right.
The more we collaborate, the better, and even the better for the donor as well, because they see 3, 4, 5 organizations coming together for the same mission, whatever their mission is, but it works for the entire community. So we're going to come back, and as soon as we come back, we're going to have some more conversation with Elizabeth Barbella, CEO, President of the Martin St. Lucie County Community Foundation.
Sign up now for the 3rd annual Fishing for Futures fishing tournament to benefit the Boys and Girls Club of St. Lucie County. On Saturday, June 12th, there's both inshore and offshore fishing, and everyone is invited to join us for a fun day on the water. Teams compete for cash prizes, including $5,000 for the biggest fish. It's a great event that supports the kids of our community. Sponsors, vendors, fishing teams, we need you. Please call 460-9918 or visit bgcofslc.org for details. Sponsored by Summit Risk Advisors.
All right, thank you for being back. You know, donors, for me, it's really about that whole relationship building. And even on the for-profit side of it, it's about building relationships when you get contracts and that sort of thing. So I kind of look at it the same. It's about how do we get the trust of a donor that what we say we're going to do, we're going to do. And just in talking to you over the last 5 years, I've learned a lot about donor and donor relationships. So can share for everyone else what that looks like.
Well, this is a relationship building business. I mean, I think that's what you're leading toward. So let me start with the Community Foundation by saying our 120 clients, individuals, families, corporations, we are a family, right? Community foundations provide concierge type of services. It's our job to intimately know the charitable landscape locally across the state and really across the nation to help guide their giving. But the next layer of that is, why do people give? What motivates them to give? And what makes them trust an organization like a community foundation to build those vital bridges, because not everybody deeply knows their community. What we find across the board is the most common reason why people give is because something is deeply meaningful and personal to them. Now, I'm not saying to you, Will, that people don't give for tax reasons, because they do. However, statistically, if you look at research projects that have been done by people, and this is not new information, people are drawn to give because they are touched by something, they are moved by something, they believe in a cause, it's had meaning to them and purpose in their life. It's something that they feel very, very strongly about. And so again, no matter what the dollar amount, they want their contribution to go towards something that is special to them, that is a part of their giving vision. Once they determine what kind of organization, what kind of cause, or the organization they want to give to, then depending on what they have to give, then you can help them figure out how to make the most meaningful gift in that moment, or in that moment thinking about what could also come into the future. And so you and I talk a lot about building relationships, bringing givers in and getting them to really intimately know the club, to understand every facet of what you do so that they can communicate back to you the thing that interests them the most. Because then from there, you have a foundation in which you can build on. The idea of giving is also built on people follow people. So just like we choose who we spend time with and when we spend time with them, and we choose people who oftentimes are interested in the things we're interested in, giving can largely be the same. Many givers will give with their friends, they'll give with their social circle, and they'll want to introduce the people that are important to them to the causes that are important to them and the organizations that they feel connected to. So again, at the root of all this is taking the time and making the investment in building these individual relationships with the people that give to your organization and support your organization.
You know, it's interesting. I always, especially in my beginning days in a nonprofit, and even as I was growing up, always thought that people who gave, it was all about taxes, right? And I have learned that maybe one donor have said to me, I got to give money away. Mm-hmm. But the vast majority of the donors are intimately involved in the Boys and Girls Clubs of St. Lucie County and other Boys and Girls Clubs or other nonprofits. I always can tell when a donor is intimately involved with what they're doing, when they're comfortable enough, and this is just Will Armstead's opinion, mm-hmm. They're comfortable enough to talk about the other nonprofits that they give to. Yeah. And they just share just their heart for community, for kids, whether it's feeding, whether it's, instruments for kids, whatever it is. I always enjoy just listening to what they have to say. And we have donors that, that their heart is really in it. Mm-hmm. The majority of our donors, it's really in it for the kids, or it's really in it for senior citizens, or whatever the cause, as you said, is. And so we had a conversation, you and I, because we were talking about, there's different donors. I mean, some donors come to wealth, like that's just the way it is, mm-hmm. right? And some donors, they started at zero and made their way to wherever they are today. And I don't think there's anything wrong with either side of it. Mm-mm. It's what they do at the end with the money.
So you have generational wealth, and then you have individuals who worked really hard and were prosperous. And the common thread here is that feeling like I can give, I want to give, I will give. And because you serve kids, let's also talk about the fact that giving is taught. The spirit of giving, the spirit of caring is taught. So some folks grow up in families where this is ingrained. It's part of their family's DNA, their makeup. Other individuals make that choice later in life. They decide they're going to bring this concept of giving into their family, into their adult life. Either way, again, they're coming to a time and a space where they can give back, they want to give back, and they choose to give back. But donors now are also really savvy. They're engaged and involved, Will, and you and I also talk about this often. They get the power of an individual organization, but they also get the power of the collective group of organizations that when they're working in tandem and they're on the same page and they're working toward a very specific goal, that together we're stronger. So many times donors will look at several organizations. In their mind, it's not competition. It's more than cooperation. It's collaboration at a level where everybody is leveraging, and I use the term pinging, right? Everybody's in their lane doing what they do really well, and they're appropriately resourced, and we get to that vision. We get to that goal quicker, but we get to it together. And again, I applaud you for this, because you and several other leaders in the not-for-profit community have really grasped this, and you've made a conscious choice to work together, not just on your programming, but you're talking to donors together. And that's really powerful, because then you've got donors thinking about, how can I be supporting multiple organizations that are all working toward this cause I care about? And it may be at different levels, it may be for different projects, but there's a mindfulness to it.
Well, since we're here, I might as well just throw some out there, right? I mean, not the donors, but some collaborations that I believe that are going to change St. Lucie County as a whole. So, you know, we just took over West Side. Yeah. And, man, it's 50-something thousand acres. I'm sorry. It's 50 acres, but there's 50,000 something square foot of building.
I think it's 53, because I think I asked when I was on the
it's
tour.
53. I wasn't going to brag about it. But I was just thinking, when we took this on, one of the things that we said we wanted to do was we wanted to have a village of other folks that were like-minded and that we could all bring in like great energy to the community. And so we have Graceway Village, we have Helping People Succeed, we have the ARC, we have some other collaborative partners, but we believe, I'm in the youth business, we have two organizations that are youth-centric. How do we come together for a common cause for these kids? And this summer is just that's where we're gonna showcase a lot of this. I mean, for Helping People Succeed and for the ARC, this is growing opportunities for them as well. And can you imagine being at a place where there's 300-400 kids at different levels within their organizations? But when you talk about a donor, we want donors to be able to see that. And I can't wait for the time where there's this big collaborative energy that comes together on behalf of kids in St. Lucie County.
Well, I'm going to have my business conversation with you really quick, right? Because not-for-profits, 501c3 is a designation for tax purposes.
Exactly.
If you are running a not-for-profit, you are running a business, whatever size or scale of that business is. And part of running a business, you know, is being prepared for the future, being nimble, being ready to make changes, see the future coming. We have young people growing up in a world today that is changing really fast, right? There's technology. The types of jobs that will be on the horizon for these kids in the future are changing. The world is changing. So to be able to equip them, give them choices, but then be able to equip them for this future, right? For this world that's out there, knowing that they can choose to be whatever it is they want to be, and that they've got an entire team of people, the club and many other organizations behind them, saying, you can be whatever you want to be, and there's going to be a lot of different things you can be on the horizon that look different than 30 years ago. That's the magic in all of this work, really. It's that you're running your business and you're looking out into the future. Your clients are your kids, and you're ready to say, how do we prepare our kids? How do we give them every opportunity for success in a world that's ever changing? Do you want to invest in that? Do you want to invest in that future? That's the conversation with donors. Isn't that something you want to invest in, is creating a level playing field and an equal opportunity for every kid, everywhere, and in St. Lucie County as well? And how do we do that? And how do we pool our resources to make that happen? And how do we do it with organizations that are demonstrating collaboration and cooperation, like what you have going on at Westside? Is the
awesome.
Future.
Well, I can tell you about some other collaborations that I feel, and you guys were part of this, meaning the foundation is getting us to think a little differently, right? A little different from the way we thought about in terms of donors, but even supporters. You know, we're at the Mid-Florida Event Center. That's a partnership, right? So this summer, We're going to be there. The music's going to be loud, right? The kids going to have a great time. But the experience for the kids, the experience for the donors to be able to see what they're able to help us to accomplish. I know that we have about 4 minutes left. And I mean, we can go on and on and on. But I want to talk a little bit and give you an opportunity to talk about the Community Foundation and what you see as your goals over the next couple of years. I know you have grown it from here to here. And if I know Elizabeth is just getting warmed up. So share with us what you like to see happen.
I am getting warmed up. Can I throw some data at you
You
really
can do
quickly?
whatever you want.
Okay, so tremendous growth in the Community Foundation. When I joined the foundation, the board was very clear that for an entity that was in its late 20s, that had quietly done some really good and important work, there was a vision there to say, when we look across the country at the other community foundations, large and small, and the work that they're doing, we really felt like it was time for the Community Foundation Martin St. Lucie to take the next step in its growth, to really double down and begin to work with the donor community to say, we're here to serve you, we're here to build bridges every single day between those who want to give and the charities that they want to give to. And so we have grown from 30 fund accounts to 120. The year I joined, we did roughly $300,000 in grant making and scholarshiping. This past year, we did $2.4 million.
Wow.
Our asset base is growing, and we have a very big, bold goal to get to $100,000 in our asset base. And why that's important and what that means is that we have $100,000 in assets that we're working with donors on growing tax-free that ultimately turn into grants and scholarships and other types of opportunities that will continue to build up our community. So that's why raising that asset base is so exciting, because as asset base grows, the opportunities to invest back into the charitable sector and in the residents in our community grows as well. We're a very broad brushstroke across all fields of interest: children, elderly, arts, culture, environment. Wherever our clients, we call them fund holders, you call them donors, want to go, we will take them within the charitable sector. And we will continue to really do our best at helping really good donors become really great givers by just knowing the community better and better. So we have some big goals. We're just getting started, and we're really just pleased to continue to deepen our partnerships with the not-for-profit community.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. When you talk about fund holders, one of the things that I recognize about your organization is that you can educate them. You can educate the donor. Some donors are just so good. They're philanthropic, but they spread themselves a little thin sometimes. And I want to see donors continue to give, whether they give to Boys and Girls Clubs or whether they give to another organization. But I would challenge you to continue doing what you're doing to make the best of every donor and their, whatever they're doing philanthropic to benefit an organization or two or three and not spread themselves thin in terms of everyone coming to them and getting money, a little bit here, a little bit there.
It's the idea of mindful strategic philanthropy, Will. And if all the charities trust each other, everybody has their opportunity in this model, right? And you can support each other because today you get and tomorrow somebody else does.
That's right.
But the giving is not going to stop. We have a really generous community. Really.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Well, our time is up. As you can see, Elizabeth Barbella, President and CEO of the Community Foundation of Martin St. Lucie County. The both of us, we can go for hours and hours on end. But I want to thank you, the listener, our donors, our supporters, our sponsors, for taking care of our youth in St. Lucie County. And because of that, we're better. See you next time.